mean, I'm 13 years old. I'm not here to party with you. I don't want to go to the clubs. Matter of fact, I'm too young to even be in here. Why you got me in clubs? There were a lot of things I seen and a lot of positions that I think I was put in where I had to make very, very tough decisions in my life about who I would be.
I was found on YouTube. I think that I was detrimental to my own career.
But then news began breaking that actually, no, Justin Bieber had snubbed him, that he had turned down Usher. People were wondering if this was true or just, usual rumor mill in the media. But then Usher confirmed it on The Breakfast Club. Kind of seemed like he was trying to make it seem like it wasn't a big deal, that here I am the mentor and he turned me down. Here is what Usher said explaining that on The Breakfast Club.
Usher, once hailed across the globe as a genius R&B icon, didn't achieve glory through luck or sheer natural talent alone. His journey into the music industry began with a decision that, in hindsight, may have cost him more than anyone could have imagined. At just 13 years old, Usher's voice started to change due to puberty, every young singer's nightmare. His promising future in music seemed to be heading toward a dead end. And then, a so-called savior appeared, Diddy, who at the time was a dominant force in the music scene, with an irresistible offer. Let me guide your son. On the surface, it seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime. Shockingly, Usher's mother quickly agreed without knowing who Diddy really was, how he would train her son, or even where this training would take place. No contracts, no background checks, no safety guarantees, just a promise of fame and a luxurious life. For a mother swept up in the Hollywood dream, that promise was enough. But what seemed like a career-making choice may have opened the door to a disturbingly dark chapter in his life. At the time, whispers had already been circulating in the entertainment world about Diddy's unique approach to mentoring young talent. Some claimed he followed a familiar pattern, convincing parents to let their children move in with him under the guise of one-on-one training, promising to turn them into stars. But what few dared to say out loud was the darker side of this arrangement, the near-total control Diddy held over these kids' lives. Once inside, the deeper they went, the harder it was to escape. This wasn't a normal mentor-mentee relationship. It was a path into a world no child should ever witness. Right in the heart of glamorous Hollywood, behind towering iron gates, stood a mansion insiders called Flavor Camp.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really.
Come on.
But hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
The name might sound sweet, almost harmless, like a music-themed summer camp for teens. A place where talent is nurtured and future stars are molded in an uplifting, inspiring environment. But for those who had been there, especially Usher at just 13, Flavor Camp became a haunting memory. According to Usher, from the moment he stepped into the house, he sensed it wasn't anything close to a legitimate training center. There were no vocal coaches, no structured practice schedules, no educational programs of any kind. Instead, the house was filled with all-night parties, blaring music, and adults acting without boundaries or restraint. Some walked around nearly naked, sometimes completely unclothed. And what terrified Usher the most were the things happening right in front of his eyes, out in the open. He recalled that nearly every time he stepped out of his room, he was confronted with scenes no child should ever witness. Adults were engaging in extremely private acts right there in shared spaces. No attempts to hide, no discretion, just blatant daytime exposure. The whole experience felt less like a legitimate music program and more like accidentally walking onto the set of something wildly inappropriate. And then one day, Diddy sat down next to Usher. He turned on the TV and played explicit footage, presenting it as some kind of lesson. But this wasn't a lesson in singing technique or career guidance. These were things that should never be part of any adult-child conversation, especially in a setting like that. In reality, it was just one of many situations where silence became the unspoken rule, where loyalty to fame was placed above a child's safety and dignity. There was a chilling moment, one that was actually captured on national television, that still sends shivers down people's spines today.
That's my brother right here from day one. We used to wake up and, pause, but like, check this out. Back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the Frosted Flakes. You know what I'm saying? Before pause was invented. You know what I'm saying? But it's my brother for real. We used to actually wrestle off of the Frosted Flakes because he used to always get up early with me. Now he's gonna...
In what seemed like a casual conversation, Diddy turned to comedian Kevin Hart, laughed, and said, "Tonight, I'm sleeping with Usher." The audience chuckled awkwardly. No one quite knew how to react. At the time, it was dismissed as just a weird joke. But now, in light of everything that's come to light, that moment feels like a flashing red warning sign that everyone ignored. Behind the scenes, the phrase "Diddy's party" became a kind of unofficial code in the entertainment world, whispered in backstage lounges and secret offices. It implied special gatherings, reserved for young artists, mostly boys. No cameras, no phones, just endless days of partying, wrapped in a hazy, surreal atmosphere. But the most spine-chilling stories came from members of Diddy's former security team. They spoke of a hidden room, equipped with highly discreet surveillance equipment, so advanced that no one even knew it was there. And those devices weren't installed to preserve memories or for casual entertainment. They were tools of control, a quiet form of power meant to ensure silence, even if someone ever decided to speak out later on. To the outside world, all of these accounts sounded like nothing more than sensational tabloid gossip. But to those who had actually lived through it, they were real, haunting, terrifying memories. Memories they were forced to carry for life, even as they continued to appear in public, smiling and strong, as if everything was fine under the spotlight. Nearly a decade after Usher's unsettling experience, history seemed to repeat itself, this time with an even more famous figure, Justin Bieber.
Wow! I feel violated right now. Wow.
Lean into me again. You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks.
I don't ever remember smelling that good at 16. Like that was bad.
Yeah.
Wow, look at your eyes. Look at what a beautiful face.
The Canadian kid with the baby face and sideswept hair shook up the entire pop scene. Discovered through viral videos and mentored by Usher himself, Justin skyrocketed to global stardom almost overnight. But what the world didn't know was that behind the glitz of the stage, another arrangement was quietly taking place, and chillingly, it mirrored exactly what Usher had gone through. What stunned people even more was the fact that Usher, the one who had once lived through Diddy's so-called mentorship, was now the person who brought Justin to meet him. On live television, Diddy and Usher joked that Diddy would keep Justin with him for 48 hours. No parental supervision. No questions asked. At the time, the audience just laughed it off as an odd promotional gag. But now, when that clip is viewed with the full context of what has since come to light, it's hard not to shudder. Years later, in a brutally honest interview, Justin said something that left people stunned. "If I hadn't gotten out of there when I did, I might not be alive today." That wasn't an exaggeration. It was a cry for help wrapped in the weight of deep reflection. Watching old footage from that era, you'll see countless moments where a teenage Justin Bieber was asked extremely personal, wildly inappropriate questions by TV hosts, questions about his body, his relationships, his maturity, as if growing up in front of millions was somehow normal. Justin wasn't just expected to sing well and put on a good show. He was forced to grow up instantly, in a warped, rushed, and unnatural way, all to meet the demands of the media and a global audience. He never had the chance to develop like a regular teenager. Every appearance was another performance, another moment where he had to put on the mask, be perfect, be professional, be polished. He was no longer a kid figuring out life, but a product being shaped, molded, and sold. What the world saw on stage was just a carefully manufactured image. What they didn't see was a stolen childhood, sacrificed in the making of a superstar. Worse still, the media, the same ones who had no problem putting Justin in all those awkward, hyperexposed situations on live TV, were the first to turn on him the moment he started to break down. Instead of asking empathetic questions like, "What's going on with this kid?" they ran headlines like "Bieber out of control" or "Teen Idol gone wild." But maybe, just maybe, Justin wasn't the real problem. Maybe it was the very system he'd been thrown into that was breaking him apart. Breaking free from Diddy's influence wasn't the end of Justin Bieber's hardships. In fact, it was just the beginning of a long string of breakdowns, detours, and emotional wounds. The whole world watched in real time as the once squeaky clean teen heartthrob was rebranded by the media as a troubled kid. He egged a neighbor's house, got into fights with paparazzi, and was pulled over for reckless driving. And then came the darker episodes, mental health spirals, rehab, and disappearing from the public eye for months without explanation. At the time, most people dismissed it all as just typical rebellious teenage behavior. But for anyone who truly listened, especially to Justin's own words, the truth was far more complex and heartbreaking than any tabloid headline could capture. In one painfully honest interview, he said, "I was just a kid thrown into a pack of wolves." And that wasn't some dramatic metaphor. He was talking about the music industry, an industry that knows how to spot, exploit, and profit off talent, but also one that's fully capable of crushing the very people behind the fame. It's a place where childhood isn't protected, it's commodified. Justin's story wasn't a one-off, and that's what makes it all the more disturbing. Fans began to notice the eerie similarities between what Justin went through and the experiences of other young stars, like Billie Eilish, Millie Bobby Brown, and even some high-profile K-pop idols. These were all teenagers bound by rigid contracts, crammed into relentless schedules, exhausted to the point of collapse, and forced to keep performing, smiling, and acting mature well beyond their years, whether they were ready or not.
I just want to protect her, you know? I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. Yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
Do you realize how important your story is? Every time I have a conversation with someone who's been through this unique type of experience, I'm searching for some kind of truth that can help.
I commend you for going there and asking the tough questions and the things that people don't want to talk about, and they don't want to go there because it's revealing, and I want people to take a look at my story, and hopefully my words can make a difference.
Eventually, the questions became too loud to ignore. Why were TV hosts so comfortable asking deeply personal, adult-themed questions to kids in front of millions of viewers? Why were these children's personal lives, emotions, and even their bodies turned into public entertainment? The truth began to rise to the surface. Truths that could no longer be buried. What happened to Justin wasn't a fluke. It was a symptom of the system, a machine designed not to nurture talent, but to manufacture, control, and if needed, discard it.